please.
According to the file.
Glad you remember that. We tend to forget to record. I was watching, there's nobody in. So we're all here. There's not even anybody on Zoom, but we're still keeping it open. And I forgot, we've got to start saying, if there's anybody on Zoom, you need to have your video on because we want to see the faces. That's very important to see everybody's faces. But glad you guys are here. We have a pretty exciting meeting for you. We have a great Toastmaster of the day. And I'll ask her to come up now, Valencia.
Thank you. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the theme for today's meeting, strength in support. One reason why this is very important to me is because I relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2018 without knowing anybody, didn't know anyone, grew up, raised St. Louis, Missouri my entire life. Me and my son moved to Charlotte. And a lot of people, when they heard I was moving, said the same thing to me. I could never do that. All my family's here. What are you gonna do? Do you know anybody? All of these things. So it was really important to me to put some things in place when I moved. First thing, I have to find a church. That is so important to me. Having the church established was number one. Then, because I'm a single mom, also after school, summer camp, had to find my YMCA. That is my second thing that I have to have wherever I live. And having those two things in place really made a big difference in my move. So there is so much strength and support. And I wanted to share that, especially because October is Mental Health Awareness Month. And having support, having people that you can rely on and depend on is one of the most important things that I think people need. We teach in our culture to be independent, but we need to have that support system. In the room, in our meeting today, we have some of our officers. We have our treasurer, Jonathan Weeks. We have our new secretary, DeAndre Person. We have our immediate past president, Vicki John. Oh, SAA, she's our sergeant at arms now. That's right.
You want to explain to them what we did?
We had to change the structure of our officers because we lost one of our officers to corporate America or his work. Yeah. Our secretary, Ted Wilson, and DeAndre decided he would take on that role for us. We're very thankful. And our immediate past president, Vicki Johns, is going to serve as our sergeant at arms. So we are thankful for that.
With a lot of help.
With a lot of help, yes. With a lot of support.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Now, and also I am the vice president of public relations. I almost forgot to mention.
Yeah, that's right. What is that?
Thank you, thank you. Now, I would like to introduce our roles for our meeting today. We have Vicki John serving as our table topics master, and I will call her up in just a minute. And then we have Tim Akers serving as our general evaluator. We have Jonathan Weeks serving as our timer. I'd like for you to come up and tell us a little bit about your role, if you wouldn't mind.
Hi, I'm going to time everything. I will throw up a green card when your time is at a good point, a yellow card when it's good, and a red card when, quite frankly, you've talked too much. Thank you. Please enjoy.
Thank you, Jonathan. To tell a little bit about the timing for today for our table topics, we usually have 3 parts of our meeting. We have our prepared speech, which we did not have one today. We have table topics where you speak for 1 minute to 2 minutes. And we have our evaluation portion of the meeting. We don't have a speech evaluation because we don't have a speech, but we will have our general evaluator. Now I'd like to call up our table topics master.
Just to explain what I'm gonna do, or you gonna do it?
Since we don't have a speech, I think we're ready to do it. We're ready to do it. Let's get into it.
Oh, you can have 20 of them.
I can have a lot of time. Oh, there's Lamima.
Yep, she's doing.
See, that's on, I never get messages till I'm in this meeting. That's like the third or fourth one. So it's good that that's here. Something that has really been on my mind lately is the part of our meeting where we evaluate one another. It used to be called, when I was younger, y'all don't remember those, y'all weren't alive that far back, they called it constructive criticism. Anybody ever heard of that? Oh, yeah.
I've been around long enough to remember.
Okay, good, Tim. I didn't want to call you out, but thanks for volunteering that. So I like feedback a lot better. You don't start out with a negative connotation of what we're going to talk about. So that's what I wanted to talk about. We have tons of new members in this club. And one of the things we've fallen short on lately is talking about evaluations and how to do it properly, how to do it the best way, not really properly, but the best way. Because the purpose of an evaluation is to help the person grow. And Tiffany, you weren't here. I was telling them before the meeting started, I saw a really good quote this week. It was, sometimes we win and sometimes we learn. And I thought, wow, that's really good, because nowadays everybody's supposed to be a winner. You know, a kid, when you play sports, everybody gets a trophy. They're all a winner. But you have to learn from when you don't succeed. Isn't that what you said? Succeed. So that's what we want to look at, the things in Toastmasters that we have learned over the years of how to do the effective evaluation, because the purpose of giving them the feedback is to help them grow, to learn and to grow, because you guys are all here because you want to be better in the job market, right? Everybody works, yeah. And especially when you've got people from IT or accounting that need those skills, because now you're making more presentations, probably, would you say?
Mhm.
Yeah. So we need that feedback. There's not a right and way to do it. So we're going to talk about some evaluation things. And what I want to do is when I ask a question, has everybody got pen and paper? I want you to evaluate them. And then after we've talked about some of these things, then we're going to have an open evaluation and we're going to share feedback. We did something similar several months ago when Valencia was table topics master. She had us watch a speech of the International Speech Contest winner. And then we all evaluated him. And that was fun too. That was a learning experience. So I'm kind of playing off of what she already started. So go ahead and do the best at your evaluation. Tiffany, if you want to give it a shot, have you got a piece of paper, honey? Pass this down. She can write on the back of that because I'm going to give it to her in a minute anyway. DeAndre, you need something? There you go. Everybody, okay. Okay, so let's ask our first question. What do you think from your time in Toastmasters has really showed you how we support one another in doing our evaluations? Hi, come on in.
Thank you.
I bet I'll talk to her this week. What's your first name? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Welcome. Is there another one out there
Oh,
too?
no, she's trying to place to put our sign that's better. Wow, thank you so much.
Oh, is that Tristan?
Yeah, thank you.
There, here. Put this here, how about that? So people can really see where you guys are.
Thank you.
Don't you just love these people?
Very good.
Yes, that's very good. Thank you. So we're going to talk, the first speaker for our table topics. Table topics is where we're speaking off the cuff, because as you know, in your job, probably you might run into one of the bosses that asks you a question and you've got to think quickly. Or for me, it was those aggravating job interviews. Oh my gosh. So that's what table topics helped me. So this is just where I'm gonna ask a question and somebody's gonna give an answer for 1 to 2 minutes. Jonathan is the timer. He's got the cards ready for you. Okay, so the question was, in your time in Toastmasters, what do you think has been the most beneficial that you've learned that you want to share with us that has really helped you in your life? And I'm going to start with the seasoned Valencia.
Thank you, Madam Topics Master. I was asked the question, what has my time in Toastmasters taught me over the years? And I've been a Toastmaster since 2017. Originally, was in a leadership position in my Toastmasters club, not really knowing what to do, kind of thrown into the fire. But what was interesting, when I moved to North Carolina, the support that came from our district gave me so much more than I'd experienced before. I was able to see from that perspective how big Toastmasters is, for one thing. It's international. And when you hear that, you don't necessarily think about it because you come to your club meeting every week. But that was a huge part of my growth. Being an area director, I learned from other district leaders in that part of my experience. But the thing on the club level that has been, I think, most rewarding for me is what Vicky's talking about, that evaluation, that feedback. I was very shy when I started in Toastmasters. People always are surprised to hear this, but I'm an introvert. And I would go to a meeting and probably sit behind my paper, speak, and get right behind my paper because I just wasn't comfortable speaking. So the practice has helped me tremendously. Thank you so much.
Wow.
I was going to stand back like she did, but then y'all can't see me. So I'm the shortest one here.
I didn't say that.
I know, you said it earlier when nobody heard, but anyway. So one time, this has been several years ago, somebody got up and did their first speech. And you gotta leave? Okay, honey, see you later. DeAndre's already told us he has a work appointment. So anyway, he got up and he did his speech, and I was new too. And so was this other person. And the evaluator got up there. And at the time we used manuals, and he looked at the guy, and the first thing he said was, "Did you even read what you were supposed to do?" That's a true story, Valencia. That is a true story. That is terrible. I think somebody called him out on that. I can't remember because it's been about 10 years ago, 13 actually. So have you seen anything? Start with, well, let's look at Lamima's on the phone. We want her to talk. Can y'all see her?
Yeah.
So Lamima, have you seen anything in our club that you would say was probably not a good thing to say? Not as bad as the example I just gave you, but have you seen anything? So why don't you, Lamima?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Well, during the short time that I have been a
Are you on
member of the
mute?
club. Oh, can you hear me?
No, she's
Oh,
not.
no, it's me.
Oh, it's you.
Start again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, for the question. During the short time that I have been a member of this club, I can say that there has not been a time that I have noticed that or heard that by anyone at the club. The feedback that has come back for the speakers, the evaluations have been positive, and they have also been encouraging in improving and showing ways of improving and development. No one has, since I've been there, been that way. For the most part, it's been positive. Thank you very much for the question, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. Thank you for that. So the next question. Is there anything that you have heard in the evaluations? Because our evaluations are what we call immediate feedback. So we don't let any time go between what happens and when we give that feedback. So it's immediate and the person can start working on it right then. So have you seen anything just in the short time you've been a member, Tim, that you've been able to incorporate in your life already in your short time in Toastmasters? Tim Aker.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon. I do that every day. Yes, for me, I've been an IT person my entire life. Different roles I've been in, business owner, leader of in spiritual things at the church. The thing that's most difficult for me is to get in front of a formal podium, and this has been the most helpful thing, and you guys have been very supportive about that. Even though I do it often, still, I struggle with it, and it just, the practice of being able to do it is very helpful. I just can't say how much. I look forward to coming so that I can have an opportunity to get in front of the podium. I mean, even though it's just a little podium, still, there's something about the formalness of standing in front of a podium is, something that you have to learn to do. And I've been in so many meetings over my life. I don't know how many thousands, many of which I've led. There's just something different about doing it this way. And so I really appreciate that. There has been, the only thing that I can think of in a not amazing experience was the paying of the dues. There was a little bit of a confusion about how that worked and a little bit of a drop the ball in procedure. But other than that, my experience has been wonderful. Thank you.
And we have got that stuff down. I want you to know. That's where feedback is so important, because like he said, that it was. And we've got it straightened out. Somebody this week paid the dues. They paid the new member dues, the whole thing. And they were supposed to be here today, but that's okay. They'll be here eventually. So I've given you a document about effective evaluations. This was done by a guy that actually he and I and his wife started the Matthews Club in June of 2009. That's how long we've been around. And he put this together. He was probably the best evaluator I think I have ever heard in my life. So I got a lot of this from him, but this is a lot. I want y'all to take this with you. You don't have to read it now. This is for you to take with you about how to do effective evaluations.
I want from Tim to you.
I know. Oh, you're okay. Okay. So did you write some things down? Because the assignment was let's do some evaluations on the speakers. So we're just going to do what we call a round robin. We're just going to go around the room and ask if you had any immediate feedback that can help each person to get better. Because this not only helps the person, it helps us too. Okay, this is an exercise that helps us all to grow. So Valencia was our first speaker. Does anybody have any feedback from this? We started with the toughest one first. Because Valencia, she's a great evaluator, a great speaker. Jonathan.
I actually have one thing. The first thing you said was the question. You repeated the question back. Now, having been in Toastmasters for a while, I know that's a useful way for you to get more thinking time.
Yes.
It's very sneaky, but it's a good way. But I really would like you to not do it.
Oh,
I know a good communications is when someone asks you a question, you basically repeat it back to them and they confirm that's what you think is correct. But I don't think it really fits this format. It's good for a novice speaker to get those few extra seconds while they process something. But Valencia, ideas.
but he's right. It is a good stall tactic because I took a class on table topics. And that's one of the things they said. As you're walking up, you're thinking, because when you're asked a question off the cuff like that, your brain doesn't just immediately have a great answer. So it does take time, but you're walking up is 3 to 5 seconds. And then, like you said, and what Jeannie always says is before you do a speech, you stand there and you get grounded and you take a deep breath. All this time is thinking time for what? But it could be good. That was a kind of a confusing question, but thank you, Jonathan. Good feedback. Tim, you got anything for Valencia?
Well, to take the other side of that argument, I would say I've been taught many times that if you're going to be speaking, you tell them what you're going to say. And you say it and you tell them what you told them.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's necessarily a bad technique to repeat things because as a bad listener, sometimes I'll be thinking about potato chips while we're talking.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
But the other thing too, which took me a while to figure out with table topics, is you don't actually have to answer the question. You can say anything that really comes to mind when you get up there.
yes,
So
all the good politicians movies.
That's true. And you know that we used to hear this all the time years ago in Toastmasters, exactly what you said. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. We don't hear it much anymore, but used to when I first started, that was a big thing. So thanks for bringing that up. So Tiffany, tell me how you pronounce your name again.
Mariana.
Mayan. Oh, that's good. Do y'all have any feedback for Valencia?
Not at this current moment.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Mhm.
That's fine. That's fine.
Still taking it on.
Hey, that is just fine.
That's what I mean by how.
the Mima.
Oh, yeah, she was next. Thanks for reminding me. All right, Lamima. Oh, Lamima, do you have anything for Valencia? I get it now.
No, everything that's been said, ditto. I mean, not ditto. I actually like the intro, see, because I try to think about that because I'm trying to do better at speaking off the cuff. So sometimes I have to kind of delay it a little bit so I can think a
Yeah.
little more. So I actually like that technique.
Yeah, and when you're on the phone, you don't have that walking up to the lectern. This is a lectern. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lamima. But she was next, right?
Yes.
Yes. So let's see if we have any feedback. Come off mute. You can stay off mute, Lamima. You're the only one on there. Does anybody have any feedback from Miss Lamima?
I have a little bit of feedback, but it's not just for Lamima. It does go to all of us as off the cuff speakers. It would also cover Tim in this. When we're gathering our thoughts for response, we use filler words. It's in our body and in our movement sometimes when we're thinking about things. And Vicky gave us some really good tips with that. by telling us what Jeannie said, not just when you start speaking to pause and think and take a breath, but as you're transitioning your thoughts, that can work as well instead of relying on those fillers.
That's a really good point. And when you have a prepared speech, you don't have the ums and ahs usually because we've prepared it. But it's at times like this, when it's off the cuff speaking, that's when those filler words can creep in. I'm glad you said that because now I'm more aware of what I'm saying. But that, to me, that was the first thing I learned when I first came, was listening to and how they pointed out the filler words. I never thought of and I didn't know it was a filler word, didn't know it was a crutch word, didn't know what it was. But that's the first thing that I think you learn. Yes, sir.
My wife, being an English teacher, she has her kids come up and do presentations. And there was this one girl who always said ahs, and all the rest of it. And my wife got so annoyed with it that she actually got her friends up, standing there in front of her. And every time she said they put up a hand. And it just went down the line.
That's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. We used to have a member. She's gone home to be with the Lord now. She was 80 years old when she joined our club. She'd been in Toastmasters for 40 years in Florida, way before your time. You've probably heard me talk about her, Joan Lewis. But she was wonderful. Little tiny lady. She was shorter than me. 5 feet tall, maybe 80 pounds soaking wet. Cute as she could be. And she had a clicker. And I'm thinking about getting us one because it was fun. And it's even more of immediate feedback. You know, they used to give me a hard time. Oh, don't do it, you're distracting them. Well, that's part of what we do, is learn how to manage those distractions. But when you hear it right then, because when we wait till the end of the meeting and the grammarian says you did so many ums and ahs, you're thinking, when? I don't remember. So this will be good to really point it out. So Tim, did you have something you wanted to tell Amima?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Thank you, Lamima. We'll move on. We're gonna roast Tim next.
Thank you.
Who has something for Tim?
I'll start, even though Vicki already pointed it out that you are getting in front of the lectern. instead
Yeah, I
of
got it.
the
So-
podium for your practice. The other thing, I talk with my hands a lot. And one of the first things that I received feedback for was that, because I'm just like very like animated when I speak. And I noticed that you use your hands when you speak too. It's more flowing than mine, but there's a time when you clasp your hands, and there's just to raise awareness of it and be mindful of how you use your hands. It could be a tool that you could use for your benefit, really, because it helps. Like when you're moving things along, when you gesture, it's something that we learn how to be more aware of. So I just wanted to point that part out.
Yes.
I think it's also related to that is you can tell you stiffen up when you get in front of the lectern.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, I mean, I have not overcome.
He hasn't even given his first speech yet.
I know, I'm just
So
we're
I
talking
think,
about feedback. I'm just,
yeah, no, he's really, well, I was telling that for our guest's sake that he's very new.
yeah.
But he has jumped right in.
Now, one thing I
He
will add,
didn't waste any time.
that time of the weekend, that video, I had to do a bit of a presentation on the weekend. And it was in front of 60 odd people. And it's the first time I've really ever had to do a presentation in front of that many people. And the nerves got me.
Really?
I was nervous,
I didn't show.
but because of this going up here and having to do this all the time, I forgot about it and I just went straight in. I actually had a bit more plans to say at the beginning that completely left my mind, but I fought my way through it.
That always, that happens, but nobody knows it but you.
Exactly.
Because the people in the audience, yeah, that video, it was really good, and we'll share it with everybody.
Yeah, but I just wanted to,
Yeah,
doing this repeatedly is going to get you better.
Yeah.
exactly, because we all sat in Tiffany and, yeah, the pretty lady at the end of the table.
Oh, manana.
Man, I thought I was gonna remember that. I'm not good at that.
Actually, this means tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Spanish. That was it.
And then it just,
I
you know,
know.
I only have one language. So, and this is a bad habit too, is putting your hands in your pocket. That's a no-no too. But these are all things that we learned over the years. I've been in this 17 years and I'm still learning, and I'm still not the best speaker. So don't ever think I'm a great speaker. I'm not. Valencia's been, what, 6 years? 5 years? Yeah. That's the Vicky card, the red one.
I know. I just
know.
wanted to show you.
I know. But that was that a fun exercise?
That was.
Tim, evaluate yourself.
Well, I'm so aware of the fact that I say, oh.
Yeah.
Even if I'm explaining how I say, oh.
Good example.
And I think I was reviewing, what is this? And if I look at people that I work with, you know, we're talking about a lot of technical things a lot. And you know, people use it as a crutch, not so much for public speaking purposes, but as they're moving from, you know, complicated topics to the next, or they're considering how to present a complicated thing to somebody who might not, you know, be plugged into what they're talking about intimately. I'm sure that's how I got into the habit of doing it. And I don't know, you know, after being in the business for 40 years, I'm not sure how easily that's going to be to break. that
Oh,
habit.
just wait till I get my clicker.
Maybe a while.
But you know, I noticed as you started in the beginning, you said, and then you said it again and again, and then as you kept going and explaining, didn't hear it one time.
I know, I'm
Trying to tamp it down.
Exactly.
But the other thing, the initial confusion about what you're going to say is overcome. And then you start saying what you actually want to say. You don't want to say, oh,
Yes, I'm sure that's true.
that seems, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure
What's
that's
up?
true.
Yeah.
True.
And I have, thank you. I have some evaluation forms. These are fairly new for Toastmasters because we started a new program. And I have some on hand. So when you're doing an evaluation, this form right here is what we use. Yeah.
Not the camera.
Oh, the camera, that one?
Yeah.
Oh, good. You see it, Lamima? This program has so many things that you can print out on your computer. Everything's done online, but everything is printable too. So if you want to pass those around, it's even got you some, yeah, everybody pass those around, Jonathan. Everybody can keep one. Yeah, I can print out some more. So when you do an evaluation, you'll have more ammunition. When I first started, and did I tell y'all this already? About whitewashing? What whitewashing is?
You mentioned it this morning.
Well, I meant when our guests came in, I probably didn't. And Lamima might not have heard me, but whitewashing is what I used to do. It's very wrong. But when you get up to evaluate somebody, Valencia, that is the best speech I've ever heard. I couldn't find anything you could work on. It was just wonderful, blah, 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 blah. And poor Valencia, even though her head got as big as a basketball, because I, you know, complimented her so much, she didn't have anything that she can work on. She didn't learn anything, and neither did I. So it didn't take me long in Toastmasters before I found out that whitewashing is not a good thing in Toastmasters. If you want to catch the person afterward and tell them how wonderful it was, that's different. But as an evaluator, we need to give them things that they can work on because we all want to get better. If you're not learning and getting better while you're in Toastmasters, then you're just wasting your time. And we don't want that. We don't want that at all. So anyway, that was my little fun exercise for Toastmasters and for table topics. See, we still make mistakes, but have I said any ums yet?
Don't know.
Valencia, back to you, baby.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
I have them right here.
I can call for that report.
Yeah.
Before I do, I will call for the timers report in just 1 minute. I wanted to bring your attention to something that's on our agenda every single time. It's in line with our theme for today, and that is we provide, as Toastmasters, a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. I can attest to that mission because I've grown tremendously as a Toastmaster. This has affected my life personally, this mission. And every time I read it, I think about the supportive nature of Toastmasters in my own personal growth. Now I'll call for the times. Jonathan, will you give us our table topic times, please?
Valencia, you came in at 1 minute and 44 seconds. That's a good time. Bamima came in at 52 seconds. A little bit of work to do. And Tim came in at 1 minute 35.
Yeah. The only other thing I had with me today, I did bring just one copy of our map of service to members. And this is an organizational chart of Toastmasters. Remember earlier when I said Toastmasters is an international organization? This doesn't have all the names of the roles, the people who are serving, but all of the positions that support the members, the clubs, the areas, divisions, districts, regions, board of directors, and world headquarters. Our organization is big and everyone wants to see that mission that I just read fulfilled, who is part of this. So I just wanted to share that. And a lot of times you can pass that down if you'd like. A lot of times we don't realize what's happening in the background in the clubs when we come as members, but there's someone who reached out to you when you wanted to join Toastmasters and let you know more about it. Someone greeted you when you came in. Someone talked to you about that path that you're working on or that speech project. This club has mentors to help you go through the pathways experience as you grow as a Toastmaster. I didn't have that as a Toastmaster. I had to just figure it out. But I did have my other Toastmasters who were trying to figure it out as well. And that's why I always call Toastmasters my tribe. This is definitely my tribe. I feel like I belong here. I'm a dork, self-proclaimed dork. But if my fellow Toastmasters don't mind having a dork in their midst. I didn't ask you. What, you're a dork too? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Fellow dorks. Fellow dorks unite.
Oh, it's mine. Oh, I have to say that offline.
Now I will call for our general evaluator to tell us how we did in our meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you. So that I can learn, as well as hopefully you guys can pick up something from this. I'm going to read what this role is. The purpose of the general evaluator is to evaluate everything that takes place throughout the meeting. During the meeting, I will take notes on everything that happens and doesn't happen. I will evaluate each participant on the meeting and look for good examples of preparation, organization, delivery, enthusiasm, observation and performance at duties. And at the end, I'll give this report. Well, in an attempt to not whitewash, I will use a technique that's used in business called Sandwich.
No,
Do you know this one?
I hate it.
It's on that piece of paper.
Is
I
it?
know, I hate it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I came up with this totally independent.
I have an allergic reaction to it.
But the idea is when you have to give some bad news, wrap it in some good news. So the bread on the top is the one piece of good news. Then in the middle is the, room for improvement news. And then the bottom is also some good news. So let me start with the top. The setup of the room and the whole organization of the room, I thought was well done. We've mentioned before that the light is a bit awkward, especially, when you're trying to see people's faces and things. I think we ought to make it a habit to close those blinds when we start the meeting. The agenda was handed out to some, but not all. I didn't get a copy until I snagged it from someone. And I benefit from having the agenda. So, and I know a lot of work goes into it, so at least we ought to make sure everyone gets it.
Just
Well,
the-
again, that's Jeffrey's fault.
There's
He's not
also,
here, so.
there's also a mobile version on Speakeasy and Easy Speak.
Well, for some, they like a hard copy, but I'm sure you're right. That would be another choice.
But he's right, we need to drop the ball on that one.
Visitors, welcome and orientation. When I'm still new, but I remember the first time I came, there was a lot of clucking about that went on, and I really appreciated it because it's an alien world. And to be honest, when I heard people talk about Toastmasters, I would rather get an electric shock
Right.
than to go to a Toastmasters. The whole thing is scary to a person who doesn't like to speak publicly. So, covering them up in the visitors with welcoming and orientation, I think is very helpful, and perhaps we could have done a better job of that. Vicky, sorry, but you need to become taller.
No height discrimination.
That's just all there is to it.
Maybe we should get you one of those little stools.
No.
I'm just a good-natured you. Roles and intros, that I thought was well done. So I think we get high marks, but there are always areas for improvement. So thank you so much.
And speaking of someone's calling you. Speaking of our visitors, I wanted to get feedback from our visitors of how our meeting went for you today. So Tiffany, Mayana, if you would let us know what you thought. Yes, you can sit there.
Well,
This is only my second meeting here, and I thoroughly enjoyed the first one. It really resonated with me, and I know that I could come in here will help me overcome the fear of standing up and speaking and not feeling intimidated. So, I went back and told my other coworkers about the club because my boss wanted us, because he's a Toastmaster general. And he wanted the rest of us to join to get prepared for public speaking and different things. So I told everyone that's about this meeting here. So hopefully we'll be coming along, but I know that I could learn and grow here. That way.
Thank you.
Well, what I thought about the meeting, this is my first time attending, Toastmasters. I like what I hear so far. I really like how you guys feel, constructive criticism. That's very important. So I appreciate that. And I feel like there's a lot of things that I can work on just by listening to different people, just by listening to the feedback that has been given to different people. So just bear with me because I'm rusty.
No, my husband's rusty.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
his name.
Oh, okay, okay. But that's what I thought, that's what I have.
But isn't that a good point? Because, we're all, everybody, I tell people, everybody needs this. You know, it's like that video, he had those other six, I couldn't watch the other six
Yeah.
people. I tried, and I wrote to you, and I said, this is
You gotta
hard.
watch it
This
over
is difficult, I cannot watch this. I had to fast forward, because once you learn these things, then it's so easy to see other people and what they need. Everybody needs it. Like I said, we were all sitting in the visitor chair at one time, every one of us. And when, wasn't it, who was that comedian? Anyway, he said that he would rather be in the casket than be the one behind the microphone. That's how petrified he was of speaking in public. Yeah, like you said, it's scary.
I want to share one story before I end my time as Toastmaster with you today. In the club that I joined when I moved to Charlotte, there is a member who spoke about joining Toastmasters. And in my mind, everyone joined Toastmasters for the same reason. We're afraid. Or we want to get better at public speaking. This particular gentleman said he thought he was fantastic as a speaker, got in front of rooms of hundreds of people with no problem delivering a speech. And then when he joined Toastmasters and there were 5 people with eyeballs on him where he could see when they lost interest and when they checked their phone. And when you're looking out at a crowd,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily seeing the individual faces and reactions. But in this room, plus somebody's gonna tell you about it, that's different. That was why he's still a member, and I think he joined probably 15 years ago.
Who is it?
You might, I don't know if you know, Larry Edwards, he works for Mecklenburg County.
I do not know.
I know he's been a member in the district too, but he hasn't been involved in
But I
quite
was
some
the
time.
same way. I was never afraid of being in front of people. And I wasn't shy like she was. But I found out that I did not know how to have a speech. I didn't know how to get their attention. I didn't know how to hold their attention. I would just ramble and ramble and ramble.
One thing I do like about the Toastmasters curriculum is how slowly progressive it is.
Right.
Levels 1 is pretty easy.
Oh, yeah.
2's good. 3, you're beginning to get a little bit into
By
it.
the time you get 5.
Yeah, because that 20-minute speach I done yet last week.
Yeah.
Asked me 6 months ago about doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I would have been petrified. I was still a little bit nervous, but
You didn't show.
I did it. And I
Yeah.
don't think I bored everyone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And that's important. And I think, again, what we learn here, we definitely use, even if you're not a public speaker that is scheduling speeches, which you could be, it's encouraged. You go into an elevator, you go into a room, you go into a meeting, you have conversations with other people all the time. It raises the awareness and the confidence. It makes you so focused on the value of your words that it changes how you deliver them.
Yeah.
And that's my testimony. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. I'll turn it over to our presiding officer to close our meeting.
You're
Our
third
treasurer.
top. Oh, he's below you.
Is
Yeah.
I'm not in real rank. All right, I will officially close our meeting if there are no other questions, comments. Thank you.
Okay.
See you guys later next week. Bye-bye.
Oh.
See you next week. Thank you.